Let's see. Okay. All right. I think we're good now. My mic was off on my computer, so thanks for letting me know that. I appreciate that. So yeah, like I was saying, I'm super pumped to go into the topics today. There's a lot to cover. Um, yeah, but before we get started into that, I saw this really interesting. Well, I guess telling. Cool, sweet. There we go. We're good. All right. So I saw this really telling tweet. I'm gonna try to pull it up. I thought I would have it on my Twitter, but I don't. Um, it shows inflation. So, as everybody probably knows who keeps up to date with anything finance, markets, crypto, we have seen that the Fed, I guess, like there's a 7.5% inflation rate that we're experiencing right now. But it's actually a lot more than that. That's actually kind of deceiving. And that's what I'm trying to pull up right now is to show the actual numbers because the actual numbers, when you look at the actual products, it's actually much higher. So I'm trying to find that right now. I should have had that prepared. I just thought of it right now as I was getting ready to do the show. So let's see here. I think I posted it earlier today in the Telegram. So if you're not in the Telegram, be sure to check that out. It's t.me mot media. We do post in there every day. So right here, this was the post. I'll have to send it to my email. That way I can pull it up to share it on the screen. But it is about the inflation rate and how bad it actually is when you look at the products that you try to purchase during this time of mass money printing, basically just free money everywhere. And I was actually hoping that my co-host Malcolm would be able to come on today, but as some of you may know, he's in the National Guard, so he had sent out to some hospitals to do some unicorn shit. Um, but he and I were having a discussion in the Telegram chat about whether or not the Fed should taper the money printing and raise interest rates. He's of the mindset that it'll only hurt more than help. I'm of the mindset that it'll help in the long term. It'll be sort of like pulling a band-aid off quicker as opposed to, doing it really slowly. Um, Here's what I wanted to show you guys. So this is the actual inflation, guys. Like things are, you know, not as they seem. So right here, I'm not sure who the hell this guy is, but if you just look at prices across the board, you're seeing everything going up. So used cars, everybody knows used cars are going up so much right now. 40.5% right now. That's crazy. Can you guys see this okay? Let's let me zoom in some more. So maybe you guys can see that a little bit better now. So as you see, gasoline 40%, gas and utilities, which by the way, that's something that I know that I've been dealing with directly, the gas as well. But when it comes to gas for your cars, but gas to like heat up your home and things like that, our gas bills have tripled. Where we live, they have tripled in like less than 2 months. I think like in less than 2 months, or maybe like maybe it's been like 2 to 3 months actually, and our bills have tripled. So when it comes to gas, utilities, and when it comes to meat, fish, and eggs, I would say that I don't know that they've necessarily gone up, at least for us, that is. And the reason I say that is because we've been going to like local butchers and stuff like that, and surprisingly, it's been cheaper to go there as opposed to your grocery stores for a lot of your meat. So I recommend people do that. Check out your butchers, support your local butchers, your local farms. That's going to be key, especially during these hyperinflation times. Like one thing that I do before we start getting into crypto or anything like that, I think this is very important. One thing that I do is go to this farm, this local farm, and I help them out. I shovel some cow poop, put it out in the fields, so that way they get some good green pastures, right? And in exchange, I get 2 free gallons of milk, of raw milk, the good stuff. And so when these prices continuously rise, and maybe you're not building up, your own little farm, or you don't have the space to do something like that, which isn't true, by the way. You can do a lot with a little space. My wife and I have grew multiple things in our home, in our apartment. Like I used to have like this little room in the basement in this house we used to rent where I would grow microgreens. I grew potatoes, onions, you name it. I grew it inside. So you don't even need a yard really to do this, to grow your own food. Obviously, vegetables and fruits and root, vegetables aren't ideal. Like you don't want to eat those all the time. But if you need to get something in your system, that'll get you by, and you can at least provide for yourself. And it gives you this, sense of independence, if you will, right? Like you become resilient. So I recommend people start dibble dabbling in that a little bit, to get some experience because prices are going to go up on these things. But the good thing is we have crypto, and crypto has far exceeded anything in the traditional markets, right? So, for instance, like Hex, which is my favorite crypto, it is providing an APY of like 40% for like one. I think it's like almost like 4 years or something like that. You get 40% APY, which is actually much more than that. And it's not even including the price action that you experience holding the token itself, right? And it's completely trustless. Anyway, if you have something like that, you're getting 40% APY, well, then for pretty much everything except for cars and gasoline, you are beating inflation. But then if you're staked for 15 years, you're outpacing inflation by like threefold, fourfold maybe, right? Because you're talking hundreds upon hundreds of percent of APY. And it's totally wild. So, and then also I saw this really interesting picture on Twitter today. It had the price of things if you had put $1,000 in it 10 years ago, and there was Nike there. Nike made, you put $1,000 in Nike, you're looking at like 4,300. Amazon, it was like 10,000, something like that. And then with maybe it was more than 10,000, but anyway, but then it was giving all these traditional stocks, Tesla, etc. And you're making thousands upon ten thousands of dollars. But then if you put $1,000 in Bitcoin 10 years ago, you would have like $7 million, something like that. And this just shows you the importance of cryptocurrency in a time like this. And I think the market is obviously going to grow. I think it's obvious at this point. We have which we're going to talk about as we, go into the show a little deeper. But we have so many states starting to consider putting crypto onto their, asset, portfolio, and talking about mining and eliminating the property tax and making taxes more conducive to, for people who are in crypto, and trying to bring people into their states, which is a whole nother thing that we'll get into as well, because this is something Wales only brought up. And most people are unaware that, in the United States, we've had in different states, you would have different currencies. And something that he didn't touch on was back in that time as well, people would actually go to another state to get rid of their debt, to like evade their debts. And in any way, there's a lot of interesting things that happened in the past, and we're seeing similar patterns right now, which we'll dive into a little bit later into the show. But before I get into anything like that, I want to touch on the first topic here that I think is really exciting. I mean, extremely exciting, guys. Like, as you know, we have been covering PulseX, the launch of PulseX, the sacrifice phase of PulseX, all of this since the beginning, since the inception. Our co-host Malcolm, he was, I think, the first one in MOT to put money towards the sacrifice phase. And then, I followed a little while after. As some of you may know, I did not sacrifice on the first day as I should have. I was a day one OG for the Pulse Chain sacrifice, but with the PulseX sacrifice, I did my sacrifice a couple days before the $10,000, 10,000 sacrifice points per dollar ended. I think I did it like 2 or 3 days before, where they had that last big pump in Hex, which I should have did it on the first day. But it is what it is. So with PulseX, there has been some really, really exciting news, really bullish news. And yeah, guys, let me show you what's going on here. So Richard Hart made a tweet a few days ago about this. So right here, this is Richard Hart, the founder of Hex, Pulse Chain, and PulseX. This whole new ecosystem. His goal is to make a vertically integrated system. That way, it's essentially, it's just like his own ecosystem in crypto. And right here, it says, watching PulseX devs test some features, I could see staking PLSX to get the incentive token, but not PLX, as there is no inflation. Testing is going well. So that right there, guys, that is wow. So if you already don't know what the or how bullish PulseX is in itself with the certain tokenomics that it has right now, right? I mean, you have this automatic buyback pressure of, I think it's like 6% of the 29%, something like that, right? So you have this automatic buyback pressure where billions of dollars will eventually be pumped into this DEX, right? Because PulseX is going to be the decentralized exchange, the number one decentralized exchange on Pulse Chain, because it's going to harvest all the liquidity away as soon as it launches. Anyway, so like I would recommend going to check out the stream I did with Whales Only. We actually talked about that more. Anyway, so with PulseX, it was already extremely bullish, right? Because you have this automatic buyback pressure, it's deflationary, and then you throw this in the mix, this staking to get an incentive token. Why would you need to sell your PLX or PulseX anytime? Now, does this mean the incentive token won't do well? Not necessarily. It could do well, but I think most people are going to use it to preserve their PulseX and sort of use it as a form of liquidity. And maybe not. I don't know. This is all, still, there are theories, right, as to what's going to happen with this incentive token. Much smarter people than me are, talking about this in the Pulse Theory Telegram room and on Twitter and YouTube. I think that it's going to do wonders for PulseX itself. It's going to allow people to not sell their Pulse X, right? Because they'll be able to get this other coin that they could sell instead, which is extremely bullish. I mean, extremely bullish, guys. And you can see the demand for PulseX is insane. Like, let's check this out. Let's check where the sacrifice phase is currently at for PulseX. So let's go to pulsexlead.com. And let's see how much money has been sacrificed so far. Oh, my goodness. Oh, boy. There's a lot of money in this. A lot of money in this, guys. A lot. And remember, people are still, if I'm not mistaken, sacrificing for Pulse Chain too. Right? So that's insane. So right here we have $1,021,922,781 has been sacrificed. It has been sacrificed to make a political statement saying that you believe in the freedom of movement, right? And this is huge. I mean, like, I don't know why this is not getting more attention across all of the crypto world. I really don't. It makes, well, I guess I get it because, there's a lot of gatekeeping when it comes to Hex and it comes to Richard Hart. People don't like his aggressive style, his direct style. And I can kind of see why, especially when you are in a kind of culture that we're in where, for lack of better terms, it's like just, pussification of everything. And so when you get somebody who is very passionate and masculine, it becomes somewhat intimidating and too aggressive, and people do not like that. But yeah, the man's a genius. And with this PulseX, I mean, come on, $1 billion has been raised. This should be. I'm getting headlines all the time, guys, and I'm sure some of you are as well, from the mainstream crypto, where they're like, crypto companies are going to be raising $2 billion in no time. Like $1 billion being raised in crypto is going to be nothing in the future. And right here we have a product, a freaking project, right? That's raised one over $1 billion right now, and it hasn't even been months, right? It hasn't even been months. It's insane, and it gets very little coverage. But a lot of people have sacrificed for it. A lot of big crypto influencers have sacrificed for it, which I want to rant on this for a minute because I feel so many people are extremely naive when it comes to media, when it comes to influencers. These crypto influencers, and a lot of people in the Hex community know this, but a lot of people in crypto don't. These crypto influencers are pretending to be these, you know, dare I say, these type of libertarians, wanting the best for the people, wanting to provide information that will allow people to become free of the system, when in reality, they keep them trapped into this new system. This new system is just putting people through the grinder, trading your coins, getting hacked, trusting centralized exchanges, trusting them. They're running pump and dump schemes. They're being paid by certain sponsors and certain projects to pump their token and dump it on your head. Like, it's disgusting what takes place in the crypto world. And most people seem to be oblivious to that. Okay. And this is what I really appreciate about the Hex community and Richard Hart himself, is that a lot of this knowledge and information is given out for free, as I think it should. Like, I've been in crypto since 2016, and I'm not asking anybody. Like, I've had hour-long, you know, essentially consultations about what crypto is, about hacks, about other blockchain in general, where I'm going into detail with people. And it can be tiring, right? Because you're having to just find new ways of explaining these things that you're like, why don't you know this already, right? You're like, this has been information readily available for years, and you don't know this already. So then you have to teach them essentially the language, just walk them through all the baby steps. So I get why people want to charge for this knowledge that they've acquired over time. However, I just don't feel it to be ethical, right? Because, like, I got the information for free, so why should I charge somebody for that information? And if, like, one of the richest men in the world is giving this information for free, I think that's a really good example. Like, like, so that's what I appreciate about the Hex community. A lot of us, just give away this information for free, and I think that's so important. I think that's empowering too. Like, and I also believe that you reap what you sow, and I think that helps build a good, honest, trusting community. And that's what we see in the Hex community, and right here with PulseX and the Pulse chain. These projects are going to be huge. But going back to the first point I wanted to touch on today was PulseX. If you stake your PulseX, it looks like there may be an incentive token for staking your PulseX. It obviously won't be PulseX because PulseX is deflationary. So this incentive token, and here's the other crazy thing, right? The people who are sacrificing for PulseX do not have to risk in permanent loss becoming a liquidity provider. They do not have to risk anything. They don't have to risk they don't have to risk anything. Nothing. They simply, well, that's not true. It's not risk free, right? And I'm not a financial advisor. So there is risk when you're putting your money into a project that is brand new. Obviously the project can fail, but it can also do very well. And the track record that we've seen so far with Richard Hart projects is that they do very well. They do really well. Even before crypto, Richard Hart's products have always done pretty well historically. So we can be confident to assume that this project, as well as Pulse Chain, will do really well, right? So, I'm looking forward to the launch of this. I know a lot of people are looking forward to the launch of this and Pulse Chain, and it's going to be super exciting. And don't forget, right? Don't forget that the hex and all the ERC20s that you hold right now, NFTs, so the ERC 721s, the NFTs and altcoins that are built on Ethereum, you're going to get a copy on Pulse Chain. You're going to get a copy of that. So when I hear people talk about that, you know, uh, Ethereum is going to be like the internet for the world, and it's going to enable so many people to do so many things, especially as it grows. In a way, those predictions aren't wrong because Pulse Chain is just copying the system network and just adding more throughput and other things too, right? I mean, there's going to be other features to it, but essentially it's just copying over the system state and all the smart contracts and just making it better, right? It's taking it from a proof of work to proof of stake, which is going to be a huge thing. It's going to be an extremely huge thing because a lot of these countries and these states are, torn about whether or not they should get into crypto mining because of the environmental um, hazards. Whether or not you agree with that is besides the point, because the narrative that is being, disseminated to the masses is that the mining of crypto is bad for the environment. But then you also have this other side creating tension, saying that, well, it's run on renewable energy. But regardless, you're still using, you know, a lot of energy to make the product itself. And I think what we're going to see eventually is a lot of, and this is, I'm kind of going down a tangent here with this, but, proof of work, I think, is going to die out slowly. And I think that it's not, well, I can't say die out, but it's going to fizzle out, right? And be replaced by proof of stake. But proof of work will never go away. It'll always be a thing that we live with. But I think we're going to see a lot of, probably a lot of, dare I say, wars over like crypto mining centers and, debates, political tension, etc. when it comes to these crypto mining sites. And proof of stake just eliminates all of that. And Pulse Chain, with all that being said, Pulse Chain is taking Ethereum, essentially beating it to the market with ETH 2.0, which I suspect this is why they're doing the consensus and the execution layer, right? They changed it. They had this whole article where they were like, we're not going to call it ETH 2.0 anymore. We're going to call the original Ethereum the consensus network, and then we're going to build the execution or layer or something like that. And I think they're doing that, in my opinion. I could be wrong, but in sort of, to hedge against what's going to happen with Pulse Chain. And something that I have not mentioned and I haven't heard many people talk about, but we're going to see how bad the gatekeeping is in the crypto world when Pulse Chain actually launches. And the reason I say that is there's a lot of huge influencers that are entering in the NFT space, entering in the crypto space. Think of Gary Vaynerchuk, Jake Paul, Logan Paul, all these people, right? They're entering in and they're building on Ethereum. And Ethereum's the top dog, right? But what happens when Pulse Chain launches? Will they acknowledge those duplicates? Maybe, maybe not. And I think this is going to be very telling of a lot of people. And I think it's going to cause a revolution in crypto. It's going to be this great split that takes place. And Richard Hart is creating a whole nother system, a whole nother thing in crypto. Whole other thing. We're seeing a bifurcation of the crypto market right now, and most people are not noticing it. And it's going to be huge. It's going to be so huge. What's going on, Mick? What's going on, Mick? So I'm super excited to see how this all plays out. And I'm super interested to see how a lot of these huge influencers are going to react to the launch of Pulse Chain. And they have like Gary Vaynerchuk. How is Gary Vaynerchuk going to take it when VFriends is also on Pulse Chain? And then all the VFriend holders have it not only on Ethereum, but on Pulse Chain. And on Pulse Chain, they have to pay almost no gas fees, but they have everything that Ethereum offers on it. It's going to be super cool to see how that plays out, guys. I'm so pumped for that. And I know a lot of people are, complaining because it's not happening soon enough and it's taking too long. Well, just be patient, like what's the rush? I mean, something that I've been doing, I work a lot, so I mean, it takes my mind off of it, right? So, I'm doing this, I'm working a job, and then I also, managing everything with MOT here. So, I have a lot of things to keep my mind preoccupied from the mad gains I'm anticipating. But so I think that's an important thing. Don't just sit there and dwell upon the riches you may get someday because you diamond handed these, in my opinion, these gold mines, right? These projects that are just moonshots, total moonshots. And let's see here. This is a funny meme that I saw earlier. So if anybody knows anything about the NFT space, the ETH rocks, I actually own an ETH rock. So I own one of these little freaking ETH rocks because they're free, right? You just have to pay the gas price. And so I was like, all right, so I'll buy this. But this is this is the difference here, right? So this is the ETH 2.0 and this is the Pulse chain. And you get the reference once you realize that Richard Hart, the founder of Hex, of Pulse Chain and PulseX, is now the owner of the Enigma, which I believe is the largest diamond in the world, and it has 555 facets, which is symbolic of well, it's not well, it in and of itself is not symbolic of anything related to Hex, but it's sort of like this, because he bought it for the Hex for as a part of Hex culture, the Hexican culture, because in Hex the longest stake you can make is 5555 or Quattro Cinco, right? So that's like 15.2 years. And so with all the fives in there, right, they were like, okay, so this is sort of like paying homage to the Hex community. He paid $4.3 million for that. Think about how much money you have to spend $4.3 million on this freaking diamond. And then you're also spending like $3 million in watches. And this is why a lot of people don't like him, by the way, because he's very boastful about his wealth. And a lot of people get very insecure and envious when it comes to people flaunting their wealth. And I get that, right? I get that. However, like I've never been a hater, but I can empathize with people as to why they, get turned off by somebody who's like that. But yeah, so that leads to the other topic. So Richard Hart freaking bought this diamond here. This huge diamond is a cultural piece for the Hex community, and that to me is really cool. Like that. This is something that is needed for a community to last, and if a community is going to last for 15 years, because there's a lot of people who have 15-year stakes, well, you need to have something a little bit deeper, something real, right? And so this diamond here adds a little more realness to the community itself. And I think it's going to play a crucial role. I think a lot of people are, I think a lot of people have taken pride in that Richard Hart has done this, and it has also gotten, it's also made headline news. And so it's only a matter of time before mainstream news picks up on who actually purchased the diamond. And it also allows for people to um, indirectly promote Hex. Because I saw in a tweet today somebody saying that during their work meeting, when they were just having small talk, she asked if anybody knew who bought the diamond. And so they Googled it. And then from there, they discovered Hex. So it's a good onboarding tool. It's he is a marketing genius. So that was really really cool to see. And I think Mick, our our one of the guys over there at MOT, that I co-host with for MOT Today, and he does a lot of articles, the Mick Morning Cup, Mick's Nightcap, all that, etc. He called that actually. He called it before, I believe, Monsley, the investor, who's a prominent Hexican, Mick, MOT community. We called that Richard Hart would buy that diamond way before, and that was Mick's call. So that was really cool. He wrote an article on that a while ago, the Enigma, when it went up for auction at first. And I think he said something in our Telegram chat that he thinks Richard Hart will buy it. We actually have an article coming out tonight with that. So you'll see that. You'll see the screenshot. We have proof and everything. So it's really cool. I might be able to show you guys the rough draft here. Let me pull up my email because I still need to edit it. So I do all the editing there. But yeah, so Mick called that. We'll see if it gives us the day and time that he called it. But yeah, so that's really cool, and I think that's going to help boost the morale in the Hex community because the Hex community has faced a lot of ridicule for being a part of the Hex community. A lot of people call us scammers and that we're gonna, this is the next BitConnect, etc. But it's not. So it doesn't give us the date. Let's see here. He called it at like 12:58. If I look up this, so I'll have to do a little digging to see exactly when he called it. Let's go to the website here. Let's go to mindsoftomorrow.net and then look at that blog post that it came after. So yeah, but he sure did call. Let me show you this. Let me share the screen with you guys. Give Mick some credit here. This is what we pride ourselves on, being ahead of the curve. And this is why, we encourage, people to subscribe to what we're doing here. So let's see. January 19th. Cool. So that's when Mick called this. January 19th. January 19th, a month ago, guys. A month ago. Oh, why is it not showing the whole thing? There it is. Boom. Right there. So, I mean, he didn't really say that he thinks that he's going to buy it, but he said if Richard bought the diamond to promote his 555 hex shit, it would be dope. And he did just that. And he called this a month ago, guys. A month ago. That's staying ahead of the curve. That's staying ahead of the curve right there. Which I had some suspicions as well when Mick wrote the article. I was like, yo, that's synchronicity. I don't know, it wasn't synchronicity necessarily, but yeah, it's I just thought it was like really cool. I was like, whoa, Richard Hart might buy this shit too. I didn't say anything though. Mick did, so Mick gets the credit for it. So that's really awesome. But yeah, so that's super cool, right? So like Mick called that right on the money. So props where props are due. Now let's go on to some other stuff that we have here that I wanted to cover with you guys. So there's a lot of crypto news lately, and the first thing that I want to talk about as we deviate from the Richard Hart ecosystem here is the major hack or the hackers that got arrested. So right here is a brief summary as to what took place. So, you can see the 2017 transfers, notwithstanding, the majority of the stolen funds remained in wallet. This is the public, this is the beginning of the public address. And so back in like 2016, this couple stole billions of dollars, $3.29 billion, 3.629 to be exact. Bitcoin. It wasn't worth that at the time, but now it's worth that. And so the government seized it, and they're in possession of it. And so the reason they were able to contain it is because it looks like this chick right here, the dude, whoever, had it. Hopefully the price should pop soon. He should wear it as a big ass chain during his live streams. That'd be wild. Allegedly, he lives in a castle too, so that'd be very fitting, right? But right here, I think the reason why they were able to decrypt the file, save to this, is because it was on the cloud, right? So that's why you don't keep your private keys online. You write it on a piece of paper, put it on some metal washer or something like that. But now I'm not condoning, this behavior here. Obviously, this is the couple who, stole money from people, and I don't encourage stealing at all or theft whatsoever. But good lesson as to why, one, you don't go on centralized exchanges, and two, you don't keep your private keys saved on your computer. And this is the couple who pulled off this heist. This is the couple right here. This is the couple, and Now they're, I guess the woman is a, she's a rapper. Yeah, she's a rapper, I believe. So yeah, yeah. So that was something right there. Like I think that came out earlier this week. So yeah, yeah, that's pretty wild, right? So like $3.6 billion. Now the government has possession of that. Who knows what they're going to do? And then another thing that you're seeing with Bitcoin right now is a lot of people are sending it to the truckers because the GoFundMe page was stopped for whatever, basically because they're. I'm probably going to get a lot of slack for this, but I don't care because I want to help people not fall for psyops. But they defunded it, I think, to cause a lot of controversy and to kind of lay the foundation for, or help lay the foundation to segue the narrative into domestic terrorism. And yeah, they're crumbling the supply chains. These, alleged quote unquote patriots who are fighting for quote unquote freedoms um, are, you know, causing all these issues. And then I think there's going to be probably big issues when it comes to the Bitcoin donated. Also, where's the Bitcoin that's being donated going? I don't know. Like who owns that wallet? Who owns the address that's receiving the Bitcoin? And what are they going to do with that Bitcoin? Are they going to give it to the truckers? Are they going to refund them for wasting their gas? Like it also doesn't make sense to me either. Like I don't know one trucker who would do this. I don't. Like they would all have to be owner operators. And so I guess a good thing to look up would be how many owner operators of semi trucks are there in Canada. This is a whole other topic, but I guess we could dive down this a little bit. So let's see how many. Let's look up how many independent truckers in Canada. Let's see. Okay, so in Canada, it's saying 250,000 truck drivers. Canada has an excess of 250,000 truck drivers. So it doesn't even make sense that like a good portion of them would be wasting their money to go to this stupid protest. All protests are psyops, by the way. I think if you really want to do something, just start becoming more self-sufficient. Like you don't need to fight the system. The system's always going to be there. The system does these things so that way you can live a happy life. You know why tyranny's happening? You know why all this shit's happening right now? Why you're losing freedoms is because the majority of people don't want those freedoms in the first place, and the government is curtailing, their regime to fit what the people want. Fact. And so all these truckers, most of them have been jabbed. Most of them have wore the mask the entire time. Most of them have not stood up for freedom one bit during the hardest times. During the hardest times, nobody stood up for it except for people like myself and the people in the bear community. We stood up to it the whole entire time. And that's doing more than doing these little protests here, because now what you're going to start seeing are headlines such as this, which I called from the very beginning of this. I know we're going off a totally different route than crypto, but I'm on this little tangent right now because Bitcoin's being sent to these truckers, and I think that's just so stupid. So right here, trucker protests in Canada starts to hurt food supply for independent grocers. Yeah, that's something that I've been talking about since the very beginning, that these truckers are going to be blamed for the supply chain collapsing, even though the supply chain was already collapsing. Don't you see they're the perfect scapegoat? And this narrative is the perfect scapegoat. And then people are now, apparently in certain provinces in Canada, could be fined up to $100,000 for participating in these protests. And allegedly, there's going to be this huge drive that takes place across the country, maybe in the US, I believe, in March. And they're saying, better prepare because they're not going to be able to deliver your food. Listen. I've been talking about this shit since the beginning. Anyway, Yeah, this is something here that gets me a little bit because I actually don't know why it gets me. I don't. I don't. I should just accept it at this point. But yeah, so anyway, Bitcoin is being sent to the truckers to help promote the movement, and now people are like, "Look, at this is good promotion for Bitcoin." When in reality, this could also be used as a another narrative to say that Bitcoin is supporting domestic terrorists. All this is lining up, somewhat like that. So anyway, billions of Bitcoin were stolen and hacked, and that led us down this whole rabbit hole of the truckers. And yeah, so don't even pay any attention to this stupid trucker movement. Don't take part of it. Don't send your Bitcoin to them. Don't send your money to it. It's run by non-Canadians. That's the first red flag. And why are there American flags flying in Canada? Why are they changing this tune of God bless the USA and saying God bless Canada? So they're keeping all the same lyrics and just replacing it with Canada. Like psyop. I don't know how they're, I just don't know. I don't know. And plus, when you have all these famous people supporting it, like Elon Musk, why would Elon Musk support the trucker rebellion? Why would he do that? Maybe it's because he can then, you know, trick people and saying we can not, look at what he did with Bitcoin, guys. He said Bitcoin was super sweet, invested it, and then he dumped it on everybody's head because he was like, this is bad for the environment. Proof of mining, proof of work, and all this electricity. I can't believe this. We have to be more eco-friendly. Could he not do the same thing to the truckers with autonomous vehicles? I think so. So keep your eyes open. This stuff is all nonsense right here. Anyway, so let's get back to crypto, which is what most people are here for. Just ranting a little bit as far as that goes with the whole trucker thing. Now let me go pull up. I don't know why all my links just vanished. I don't know what I did to accidentally make them vanish. I must have clicked out of one too many things. So bear with me here as I pull up the other things that I wanted to cover for today. Is this it? Let's see. So this is some of them. Let's see here. So like a lot of states are starting to, talk about, as I mentioned before earlier in the show, um, accepting cryptocurrencies and making it friendly for people to come over there. So, like for instance, in Missouri, state reps are putting forth bills to exempt Bitcoin and digital assets from property taxes. That's huge. Missouri. A lot of people think that Missouri is going to be sort of like the going to be where the revival of America sort of takes place. I don't know. The Mormons have thought that for a long time. Anyway, we'll go down that rabbit hole. And then there's a candidate for governor in Idaho. I haven't looked into this, but anyway, she's saying that Idaho should be a safe haven for Bitcoin. So there's a lot of other, governors who are doing that, like in Texas, Governor Abbott, and then there's Abbott, however the hell you say his last name, and then there's some other guy who's running for it, who's also, um, you know, saying that he's for Bitcoin and all that stuff. So right here, actually, candidate for governor of Texas, Don Hoffings, or however the hell you say his last name, has committed to passing Bitcoin legal tender in the first session if he wins the governorship. So, also as I've been saying, people who hold the most crypto will have the most political influence moving forward. And I think DAOs will be formed and will become sort of like the new PACs, right? I think DAOs will become like the new PACs, right? And they'll, make their own candidates. They'll fund their own candidates. They'll mold their own candidates to make it so legislation is passed to benefit them. That's what's going to happen. This is what happens with people who have money. Like for instance, you already have like Binance invested $200 million into Forbes, $200 million into Forbes, and now it basically has its own mouthpiece in the media, just like a bunch of other wealthy individuals and corporations have, right? Their own mouthpiece in the media. But with Binance, something like Binance, they already own the largest or the most popular coin ranking site in the crypto space, which is CoinMarketCap. which, by the way, has a lawsuit against it for incorrectly advertising or falsely advertising or something like that, something with their ranking system that is improper, it is not accurate, and they're lying about a lot of projects. For example, Hex is like ranked like 231 when you look at others, you're showing like some are showing 3, some are showing 10, but regardless, Hex should be in the top 10 anyway. So Binance, they're buying these media companies, and so you're going to see a lot of people in crypto buying politicians. And that's just going to be the way it is. Now we go over here, go back to this. So yep, you got the governor over there, and then something else. Another little side note here. So a new iPhone feature will allow merchants to accept crypto payments just in a tap. So that's very bullish for crypto as a whole. Most people will probably not be using Bitcoin for that because they want to have their transactions done quicker than 10 minutes. I'm in the somewhat of a retail business, right, in the automotive world. And I tell you, we're not going to be like, okay, send me your Bitcoin. Let me wait 10 minutes before we can let you go. I'm not going to be like, hey, all right, send over the Bitcoin. I'll give you your keys. You can go on your way. Because what if the transaction fails? And why would the customer want to stand there another 10 minutes? At that point, they just want to get their stuff and go. So it's obviously not going to be Bitcoin, right? Which was Bitcoin's first intended use. Peer-to-peer currency. It failed. The narrative of store value, kind of working. But Hex, I think, does a lot better job than that. Anyway, so that's pretty cool. And what else do we have here? So that's already some stuff that we covered. Oh, this is another interesting piece here that we should probably cover, I think. Let's see. Now, this is kind of related to crypto, in that crypto and the metaverse kind of go hand in hand. So right here, you'll be able to put your metaverse avatar to work and make actual money from it, which, people are already kind of doing this. So this isn't new, by the way, right? So like people are making AI that can automate their jobs. Like if you read Hacker News, I heard Microsoft is looking to hire a position. Yeah, they are. A lot of companies are, Nike, Disney. A lot of people are looking to get into the NFT space, and so let's see. Let's bring myself back up here. Where was I? So yeah, so a lot of people, if you really like Hacker News, you'll see articles of people talking about how they automated their jobs and they haven't really worked their jobs in a long time because they don't have to anymore. So a lot of people are already finding ways to automate certain jobs without their employers knowing, and they're getting paid for having the robot do their work. So this is sort of similar. However, this can be more dystopian because what I think is going to happen is your avatar in the metaverse is going to be linked to your physical data in some way, shape, or form, and that's going to cause a lot of issues, which we can go down. I've expressed some of my concerns on that in other streams and videos, which I could probably talk about some other time. But this is nothing new, and the metaverse is nothing new either, right? So I think this is going to be. I don't know. I don't know what it's going to be because you're still going to have to do work in the physical world to some extent. So I'm not too sure how this is really going to play out. So it's going to be interesting to see how, when more and more people start to use it, how it's going to affect the economy at large. But yeah, guys, so that's pretty much all I have for today. So I appreciate everybody tuning in, staying this long. Please hit that like button, hit the share, subscribe, all that good stuff. This Sunday we have a good MOT today coming out, so be on the lookout for it. And yeah, guys. And also, don't forget about MOT Sports every Thursday. And then on Mondays, Minds Up Tomorrow, the long form podcast comes on. The interviews that I do with very smart people, very interesting people. So, yeah, guys, thanks for tuning in. Much love. You enjoy your Friday. Peace.